Team Dynamic Disc member here, Miles Seaborn. We are at the 2018 Piney Woods Open in Tyler, Texas. We're going to be following me around and just kind of watch what I do on this round one coverage. Here we have hole one. It's about 450 feet or so. I've been feeling a little under the weather this morning, so I wasn't really sure how my body would respond. So my goal was just to throw something that stays to the right. If you go left on this hole, you end up in a little bit of danger. And fortunately, it gave me a putt. And you can see here, I've got some low limbs, but there's a gap to the right, and it was square on my putt, so I was a little fortunate with that. I didn't really have any limbs to contend with. In fact, the putter actually goes up inside of them, as you'll see. And first putt of the day from 45 feet, that gives you quite a bit of confidence. Hole two is a lot shorter, but it's quite a bit uphill. I didn't want to throw a Ballista Pro like I did on the first hole, just because you can accidentally turn them over a little bit and get into trouble. So I'm throwing a pretty overstable Sparkle Defender here, just forcing it on Anheuser so it comes back, and it worked out really well. Kind of skipped up past the tree, just a little 15-foot putt. Had a little bit of bushes on the normal putt, so I went with a straddle here. But at this range, 15 feet straddle or just a straight-on normal putting stance doesn't really matter too much to me. I was happy to, you can see I was happy to hit the putt. I think Robert McCall was over there harassing me a little bit, so, that's all right. It's good camaraderie there. On hole three here, it's just kind of there's two lines you can hit to the right or to the left, and you just got to pick one and commit and hope it goes through. That's basically what you're doing. And I'm taking kind of a beat-in verdict. It flies a lot like an EMAC Truth, and I just pulled it a little bit and found some trees, which is a common thing out here in Tyler. Lots of trees. Didn't really have anything wide open for the upshot, so went with a little Annie Mercy here and just kind of turned it over a little bit too much. And you can see I wasn't too thrilled with myself. You don't really want that 40-foot downhill death putt to save your par, but confidence putting on the first hole gave me some confidence here, and so I didn't really have any hesitancy of not throwing it hard at the bucket, and it worked out well. So I'll take it. You can see me shake my head. Hooey. It's a little not what you want, but I'll take it. This is a very unique hole. It's only about 120 feet to the bucket, but it's way to the right and way uphill and a ton of trees. So I prefer this really high Anheuser line, and I just left it out a little too wide and hit a tree and fell down. As long as it sits there, you're okay.
That was too wide. You gotta cut the corner.
You can see why it's important to get up as far towards the bucket as possible, up the hill as far as possible, even if you're short or long. But I have a little bit of an interesting lie here. I was choosing between just a kind of a jump putt to get within 20 or a little sidearm, and I don't know, the sidearm just felt better. And I was trying to just hit the ground just past that blue putter, and I throw it and I kind of leave it high, and I got very fortunate to split the tree. And thankfully it sat down. You see, that wasn't good, but I'll take it. That's what you do. Sometimes you got to take when you mess up, you got to take the mistakes and capitalize on them. So I will gladly take that tap in three. That's a hole that you think, man, 140 feet, you really got to it, but there's not a lot of twos. I don't know the stats, but I would bet there were under 15% twos on that hole. Lots of threes and quite a few fours. So this hole, there's all these kind of short trees right in front of us. The basket's just beyond those. The conventional line is a little sidearm to the left, but I'm not the most conventional player, and I love these, what I call Scoobies. Some people might call them grenades. Just because it goes up and straight down, and even if I'm a little bit off, I'm still inside the circle. So that was the whole goal there. This was kind of a unique tester putt. I wasn't super confident in it. You can't tell from there, but it was the top of the basket was actually below my feet. Very USDGC hole 18 there, where you're kind of just pitching it and hoping it drops. So hole 6 here, I'm just trying to throw I have a fairly stable verdict. I'm just trying to throw it on a hyzer. It's got to get to the ground fast, and so The problem is when you throw those shots with those kind of discs, sometimes you tend to leak them up. And that's exactly what happened. So it left me this kind of long birdie putt. I got my beat-in Mercy here. I've had this thing in my bag for years, a couple aces on it, and I like it because it flies pretty straight, but it doesn't go very far after it starts hyzering. So for a hole like this or a putt like this, it's perfect. And I thought I nailed it. Little spoiler alert there, but that's all right. And it sat down, thankfully. But I'll walk away with the 3. That's okay. And I've been putting daggers for a couple years, very Ricky Wysocki-like, and I just like them. So we get to these monkey holes. They call them monkey holes because there's monkeys. But this is a super tight gap, and all I'm trying to do is hit the gap. So I've got a really beat-in EMAC Truth, and I'm just throwing it flat and just trying to let it turn. And thankfully, I did that. If you round the corner, you just want it to go down there somewhere. That's all you care about.
I don't care. It's like 45 deep, but I don't care.
I ended up a little long. Again, I got my same Mercy out here. I'm not really giving this a run. I'm more just making sure I get through the brush and just under the bucket for a 3. That's really all I'm after there. That hole's one that bites a lot of people, so you want to make sure you get to 3. Now I've got one of these. It's not a first run felon, but it's from the first couple runs, and it's really beat in. It's a nice little sidearm disc for me. And first sidearmer of the day is always a little sketchy, as you can see there. I'm just happy to make it through. So I've got a couple different daggers I putt with. That purple one you've seen. This is the white one. It's a lot more beat in, a lot straighter. So anything that's kind of longer putt, especially straddle putts, I tend to lean on this one because I don't get as much pop, don't get as much leg push with it. And that was about a 45-footer. And anytime you have a standstill 45-footer, especially straddle, you tend to leak them right. That's exactly what happened there. But anytime you get through those 2 holes, 3-3, you're pretty happy. So this hole, I had practiced it a whole bunch. I had thrown getaways, I'd thrown defenders. This yellow defender I'm throwing, I had really liked. I'd parked it a couple times. I'd never really even brought the road into play. And so that's what I'm thinking. It's just turn it over, let it fade back. And I might have turned it a bit too much, but in all honesty, I thought I was fine. But sometimes what you'll find is people will notice this, that when you're in tournament play, you gain distance somehow. You don't really know how. And that's exactly what I did. I barely scooted off the curb, and I had this long 45, 50-foot putt to save the 3, and just left it low, which makes sense because I made the decision before I'd even putted it that I was going to go for it. That's a very important thing you need to do is don't make your decision whether you're going for a putt or not standing over the putt. Make it before you step up to it. So what I'm doing here is I'm throwing a roller. It's almost a cut roller. In practice, I had thrown this really well with actually more cut angle than that and stood it up by the bucket. This time I thought I turned it too much, but it just never stood up. We had a lot of rain the morning of, and I think the ground was a little soggy. And it just never stood up on me. That's one of those, it wasn't really a mental mistake. It wasn't even really an execution mistake. It was just not realizing that we were going to have soggier conditions and the disc wasn't going to roll quite the same way it was when it had been dry. So I've got a harp and an anvil in my hand. I have this, it's a really interesting shot. I've got to go around the cedar, but the basket's only about 10 feet behind it. So I'm just throwing it at this tree, trying to let it hyzer in. I just left it a tad short, but the reason I went with the anvil there is because it's the optoplastic. So it's going to slide through the trees more. That soft harp, if it had grabbed anything, it would have just sat down. And thankfully, that's what happened. That anvil slid right through those tree limbs, and even though it wasn't an open putt, left me with a fairly easy tap in, which I will gladly take. I got my Ballista Pro out here again, same one I threw on hole 1. This is uphill, so I'm not really worried about it leaking right, and I just want to throw it flat and just smash it, get as far up the hill as I can, make the second shot a lot easier. And I pretty much executed it exactly how I wanted. Like, I could not have thrown that any better. I was pretty stoked with that. You'll notice that same beat up Mercy. I'm throwing uphill here. There's really no wind. And so I want something that's pretty understable so I don't accidentally hyzer it out. And that's why I chose that disc. Just throw it flat, soft, let it just fade at the end. Worked out perfectly. So on this tee box, really what I'm thinking is probably a verdict, but I changed my mind and went with an anvil. I've got a really beat-in anvil, and I'm just trying to throw it flat and hard. And unfortunately, I leaked it a little bit left, and it caught that last tree and did not get a very favorable kick, but it was something that I could save. Being 6'3", I was able to sneak in there. You can see it's probably a good 8 feet in the bushes. So I had a couple putters here. I knew I was going to have to flick it, get my knee all dirty, but I knew I was going to have to pop it out, and there's thankfully a little gap there to do it. You can see me, I'm kind of looking back between the bushes every once in a while because I can't see the bucket when I get in my throwing stance. So it's really a blind shot. I'm checking the distance, and then I'm just stepping out and throwing it. And really, honestly, I'm pretty happy with that result, even though it left it a little bit long. And I'd hit some long putts today, but I hadn't had any in this distance. And I just leaked it a little bit right. It just, you know, when you go through a round, if you haven't had any, what I would call comfortable putts, which I think of between, 20 and 30 feet, sometimes that first one, 6 or 7, 8 holes in, can mess with you. So some of you guys might be looking at this going, why doesn't he just throw straight at it? It makes no sense. The basket's right there. Well, it's a very difficult hole to get to just because of the angle and the upslope and all that. And so I can throw almost full power this little sneaky hyzer line. And it's a very comfortable shot for me. Being from Texas, I throw a lot of hyzers. And unfortunately, I slipped just a little bit on the tee box, so it took some power away. But it goes back to having this kind of 30-foot death putt. And like I mentioned a few holes ago, the best thing you can do is make your decision on if you're going for it or not before you step up to it. That way, when you do step up to it, there's no lack of confidence, there's no issues. You've just got to make that decision before you do it. And that's exactly what I did there. I said, I'm going for this, and that's that. And it allowed me to just focus and hit the putt. I've got a soft harp in my hand here. You can see the M on the Mando pole to the right, so you can't throw a giant hyzer at this bucket. It's about a 280-foot shot. I'm just throwing that soft harp pretty much as hard as I can, letting it drift a little. And the thing about the soft harp is it's grabby. I thought I had the CTP, but unfortunately, our wonderful teammate and friend Ron Converse
guarantee it was the suspect.
probably got me with the suspect if I had to guess. So you'll notice that same Ballista Pro here. We've got this gap we got to hit, and I'm doing the same thing I did a few holes ago. I just want to throw this flat and hard. If it annies a little, great. If it hyzers, great. I don't care. Just hit the gap and throw it flat. And I threw it a little low, but being a Ballista Pro, that's no problem because it's going to hyzer out and skip up, and I really could not have asked for a better drive. So you see these trees on the right here kind of guarding the hyzer line. And this upshot for me, I'm not a huge putter fan. I don't mind throwing putters when I'm throwing them hard, but I don't like the little touch 180-foot upshots with putters. It's just something I'm uncomfortable with. And so I went with the little sidearm, and I needed to throw it flat or hard, and I didn't do either. I threw it kind of on a hyzer line, and I didn't throw it hard. And it left me with that same 20-footer I just missed. So I'm telling myself the same thing. Just aim at the same spot. You're not going to miss twice. If you're a good enough putter, you're not going to miss twice. And that's exactly what I did. And left it a little right again, but it hit, and that's all that matters. Kind of regain that confidence. So what you can't see on this hole from the tee box is there's OB all down the left side. So you don't want to throw just a straight hyzer. This is a really long hole. So what I'm doing is I've got that Ballista Pro. It's the same approach I've thrown on several of the holes. I've said this a lot. I want to throw it and let it leak a little bit right and then finish hyzer. I'm not trying to throw a big anhyzer. I'm not trying to throw a straight hyzer. And you'll notice every time I've thrown that disc, it's pretty much been the same shot. That gives me a comfort in it. This upshot's about 400 feet, low ceiling. That fence line on the right where all the brush is out of bounds. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a very overstable defender and I'm just gonna smash it low right at the fence and trust that it's gonna turn out. I'm not gonna accidentally turn it over. And that's exactly what I did. Threw it right where I wanted, and just, unfortunately, with the wet ground is what I think it was. It just didn't get a good skip. It kind of grabbed it. But this is a par 5, so anytime you have anything inside 60 for an eagle, you're happy. Normally I would jump putt this, but for some reason I wasn't feeling it. I play pretty, I play golf where I pretty much do the same thing every time from whatever distance or whatever type of shot. But every once in a while you get to a spot where you just don't feel comfortable with something, and that's exactly what that was. I didn't jump putt it. Hadn't jump putted all day. I haven't been jump putting well in practice, so just felt like I needed to throw that normally. And hey, a tap in 4 on that one for a birdie, an easy 4 is a really, really good thing. This is our $10,000 ace hole.
My name's Miles Seaborn, and I'm going to be throwing a Latitude 64 stiletto.
So you can see you've got to tell your name, got to tell your disc you're throwing. If you throw a trilogy disc, you get 10,000 bucks. If you ace it with a non-trilogy disc, you get 5,000. So it's why not go for it? So I don't want to go deep or anything. So basically all I'm doing is I'm taking this really overstable stiletto, throwing it high and just letting it spike. And it was close. It missed it by 3 or 4 feet in front.
Get your heart beating just a smidge.
But tap in bird nonetheless. You can see the perfect stiletto placement there. But kind of my thought process there is it's farther than you think it is, this hole, so I'm throwing it high and letting it spike in because I don't want to accidentally throw it deep. You can see we were joking just how perfect product placement that was, so why not have a good time with it and make an Instagram post later. But I will gladly take the tap in. Got to wipe the mud off because it tombstone pretty good. So you can see this tree, obviously the road's OB. I'm trying to aim it right at the middle of the tree and turn it over. I'm not really playing for the 2. If I throw it right at the tree and turn it over and it flies perfectly, I might have a 40-footer at it. Like, that is my thought process. That's where I'm headed. Just get a 3 and get out of here because lots of people go out of bounds in this hole. That's the proper way to attack it. Unfortunately, I left it right down the curb. But fortunately, it's that same Ballista Pro that has that little bit of right turn, and it worked out perfect. There's a...
I was aiming about 10 feet farther right than that.
You can hear me talking about it. There's a thing, as you watch videos and stuff like that of pros,
I was trying to pull it to the right of the tree.
you'll see lots of times where people throw shots and you think that's perfect, and really they've messed it up, and that's a perfect example of it. So I have that same 20-footer I'm not feeling comfortable in, and I'm telling myself, aim left, aim left, aim left, and I just couldn't do it, forcing myself to aim at the pole. That's where I need to aim. Thankfully, that one stuck because I left it a little right. But hopefully that gives you guys some good insight to kind of what goes through my head during a round, what goes through a lot of pros' head during the round, just how we choose shots and how we work on things.